The massive alien ship hung in space like a metal mountain. Its surface was covered with sharp edges and dark metal that seemed to drink in the starlight. Inside one of the largest rooms, beings from dozens of different worlds gathered together. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of something that looked like living crystal. They all watched as the newest species entered the room. Commander G1 walked into the chamber with his back straight and his face calm. He wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Behind him came Lieutenant Minho, a younger man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. They both moved carefully, aware that every alien in the room was studying them. Humans were new to this gathering of worlds, very new, and nobody trusted the new ones. The Vraxians controlled this meeting. They were the strongest military power in this part of the galaxy. Each Vraxian stood over 8 feet tall with thick scales covering their bodies. Their heads looked similar to Earth's ancient dinosaurs, with rows of sharp teeth that they showed when they smiled. Captain Theron led the Vraxian delegation. His scales were deep red, almost black, and his eyes were the color of old gold. When he looked at the humans, those eyes held no warmth at all. "So these are the humans," Theron said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "Small creatures from a small world. Tell me, Commander G1, why should we allow your kind into our coalition?" G1 kept his face neutral. "We offer unique perspectives and skills. Our species has survived many challenges. We believe we can contribute to the peace and prosperity of all member worlds." Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A Vraxian lieutenant named Crix leaned close to Theron and said something in their own language. Both of them looked at the humans and showed their teeth. Ambassador Hyun entered next. She was older than the two military men, with gray streaks in her black hair. Her eyes were kind but also very alert. She bowed slightly to the gathered aliens, showing respect without showing weakness. Behind her came 2 young humans. The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned to look at the children. Daeho was 9 years old. He had messy black hair and wore a smaller version of the Earth uniform. His eyes were wide as he looked at all the strange beings around him. Despite his obvious nervousness, he smiled and waved at the nearest aliens. Beside him, Sora was 7. She held a small bag that contained items from Earth culture that they would share with the aliens. "These young ones," Hyun said clearly, "are here as cultural representatives. They will share with you the art, music, and stories of humanity. We believe that understanding begins with sharing our lives, including the voices of our youngest members." Theron stared at the children for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a friendly sound. "You bring cubs to a military summit? Are these the fiercest warriors Earth can offer?" More laughter rippled through the room. An insect-like alien clicked its mandibles in amusement. A floating creature that looked like a jellyfish pulsed with colors that G1's translators said meant humorous and pathetic. Minho's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. G1 placed a hand on his shoulder, a gentle reminder to stay calm. "Children are our future," Hyun said simply. "They represent hope and the continuation of our species. We thought other civilizations would understand this." "Oh, we understand," Crix said, moving closer to the children. He was slightly smaller than Theron, but still towered over the young humans. "We understand that your species must be very weak if you think cubs can represent you in matters of state." He reached down and patted Daeho on the head, the way someone might pet a small animal. Daeho looked confused but smiled politely. Sora stepped slightly behind her older companion. The ceremony continued. Hyun guided the children through a presentation about Earth. Daeho showed paintings made by human children. Sora played a recording of a simple song. The aliens watched with barely hidden contempt. To them, this confirmed what they already believed. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans brought their babies to important meetings. During the meal that followed, the aliens largely ignored the human delegation. They spoke to each other in various languages, and the translators worked hard to keep up. G1 noticed that several species seemed to form groups based on military strength. The strong ones sat together and talked about territory and resources. The weaker ones sat at the edges and spoke in quieter voices. Theron made sure to demonstrate Vraxian dominance throughout the meal. He spoke loudly about recent military victories. He described worlds that had submitted to Vraxian authority. When he wanted something, he simply took it, even if it meant reaching across another delegate. At one point, Theron stood and walked past the human table. As he did, he deliberately stepped on Minho's foot. His weight pressed down for a moment longer than an accident would explain. Minho's face went tight with pain, but he did not cry out. He did not move. He simply stared up at the massive alien with eyes that showed nothing. Apologies, Theron said, not sounding apologetic at all. Your kind are so small, easy to overlook. No harm done, Jiwan said quietly. His voice was perfectly controlled, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Crix approached the children again later in the evening. Perhaps these cubs should stay on our ship, he suggested to Hyun. They are amusing. We could teach them proper behavior. Proper strength. The children will remain with our delegation, Hyun replied. Her voice was calm but very firm. They are under our protection. Protection, Crix repeated, finding the word funny. What could weak creatures like you protect them from? Hyun smiled. It did not reach her eyes. Hopefully nothing, she said. But if necessary, we protect them from everything. The Vraxian did not understand the weight in those words. None of the aliens did. They saw small beings with soft skin and no natural weapons. They saw creatures that brought their young to dangerous places. They saw weakness. As the first day of the summit ended, the human delegation returned to their assigned quarters. Daeho and Sora went to their room, tired but excited by all they had seen. Jiwon, Minho, and Hyun gathered in the common area. They see us as prey animals, Minho said quietly. He was still angry about the disrespect shown throughout the day. Let them, Hyun replied. She looked out the window at the stars beyond. Many predators have made that mistake about humans before. Most of them are extinct now. Jiwon nodded slowly. We maintain diplomatic protocols. We show respect. We follow their rules. But we also remain alert. Always alert, especially while the children are here. All three of them understood something the aliens did not. They understood that humans had reached the top of Earth's food chain, not through size or natural weapons. They had done it through intelligence, cooperation, and something else. Something that slept quietly until it was needed. Something that woke up when the young were threatened. The summit would continue for 5 more days. 5 days of demonstrations, negotiations, and careful diplomacy. The aliens believed they understood what humans were. Small, weak, harmless. They would learn the truth soon enough. The second day of the summit began like the first. Aliens from different worlds gathered in meeting rooms to discuss trade agreements and territorial boundaries. The humans attended sessions where they mostly listened and took notes. Captain Theron continued to make small insults, testing how much disrespect the humans would tolerate. So far, they had tolerated everything with quiet dignity. Daeho was curious about everything on the alien ship. During a break in the morning sessions, he asked Hyun if he could explore the viewing gallery. It was a public area where visitors could watch the stars through massive windows. Hyun agreed, but told him to stay in the public sections and return within 1 hour. The viewing gallery was beautiful. Daeho pressed his hands against the transparent material and stared at the nebula in the distance. It glowed with purple and blue light. Nothing like this could be seen from Earth, even with telescopes. He was so amazed by the sight that he did not notice when he wandered past a marker that indicated a restricted area. The corridor he entered looked similar to the public ones. Same metal walls, same lighting, same floor. But there were fewer windows here and more doors with strange symbols on them. Daeho could not read the alien writing. He continued forward, looking for another viewing window. He found a room with an open door. Inside were machines he did not recognize, all humming and blinking with lights. In the center of the room stood something that looked like a large tube made of energy. Objects floated inside it, held in place by the glowing field. It was the most interesting thing Daeho had seen since arriving on the ship. He stepped closer to examine it. The machines around him beeped and chimed. One screen changed colors from blue to yellow. Daeho did not know what any of it meant. He reached out to touch the energy field, just wanting to see what it felt like. The moment his finger made contact, everything went wrong. Alarms screamed throughout the section. Red lights began flashing. The energy field around the tube flickered and expanded suddenly, creating a barrier that surrounded Daeho completely. He stumbled backward but hit the invisible wall. He was trapped inside the containment field. Then he heard a new sound, a hissing that came from vents in the ceiling. The air around him began to change. It became harder to breathe. The atmospheric processors were shutting down inside the containment field. The safety systems assumed whatever was trapped inside the field was dangerous, and should not be allowed to breathe the ship's air. Deho tried to push through the energy barrier, but it would not move. His hands could not pass through it. He banged on it with his fists, but nothing happened. The air kept getting thinner. His chest started to hurt. He screamed. It was not a word. It was not a call for help. It was pure terror, the sound a child makes when they are truly frightened. It was high and sharp and desperate. The scream echoed through the containment field, bounced off the walls, and fed into the ship's communication system, which was integrated with all the systems in that section. 3 corridors away, in a meeting room, Commander Jiwan was listening to a Vraxian explain their military structure. His translator earpiece suddenly filled with Deho's scream. Every human in the room heard it at the same moment. The ship's communication system had accidentally broadcast it to all the translators that were set to human frequencies. Jiwan's entire body changed in an instant. His relaxed posture vanished. His muscles tensed. His pupils dilated until his eyes looked almost black. His breathing became deep and fast, pulling oxygen into his blood. His heart rate jumped from 60 beats per minute to over 140. Adrenaline flooded through his system like a dam breaking. He was not the only one. In another meeting room, Lieutenant Minho's hands clenched into fists so tight that his knuckles went white. Ambassador Hyun, who was in the middle of a sentence, stopped speaking. Her face went completely blank for 1 second, then filled with something that looked like rage and fear mixed together. Every human on the ship heard that scream and had the same biological reaction. Millions of years of evolution activated in their bodies, their thinking brains. The parts that handled logic and diplomacy and careful planning got pushed aside. The old brain, the ancient survival system, took control. Captain Theron noticed Jiwan's transformation. The human had gone completely still, but it was not the stillness of calm. It was the stillness of a coiled spring. "Commander Jiwan? Is something wrong?" Jiwan did not answer. He was already moving toward the door. His legs carried him faster than Theron had seen any human move before. The graceful, controlled diplomat was gone. This was something else. "Where are you going?" Theron demanded. "The session is not finished." Jiwan still did not answer. He could not answer. Every part of his mind was focused on one thing: reach the child. The scream had stopped, but that made it worse, not better. A screaming child might still be fighting. A silent child might be hurt, might be dying, might be dead. His translator told him which direction the signal had come from. He ran through the corridors of the alien ship, ignoring the startled beings who jumped out of his way. Behind him he heard Theron and other Vraxians following, shouting commands he did not process. Crix appeared in the corridor ahead, blocking the path. The large Vraxian held up one clawed hand. "Halt! You are running toward a restricted area. This is not permitted." Jiwan did not slow down. He did not try to explain. When he reached Crix, he struck with his fist. The punch had all his weight and momentum behind it. More importantly, it had desperate strength. The kind of strength that lets parents lift fallen cars off their children. The kind that ignores pain and injury because something more important than survival is at stake. His fist connected with Crix's chest plate, the armored scale that protected Vraxian vital organs. The scale cracked. Crix made a gasping sound and fell backward, his eyes wide with shock and pain. No creature that size should hit that hard. It was not possible. But Jiwan was already past him, still running. In another section, Minho heard the alarm systems and understood what they meant. He was closer to the restricted area than Jiwan. He reached a sealed door that required authorization to open. A Vraxian guard stood beside it, looking confused by all the alarms. "Open it," Minho said. His voice was flat and cold. "I cannot." "Restricted area. Only authorized." Minho grabbed the edge of the door with both hands. The door was made of metal alloy designed to withstand significant force. It was sealed with magnetic locks that required a code to release. Minho pulled. His muscles strained. The veins in his neck stood out. His hands started bleeding where the sharp edge of the door cut into his skin. The door groaned. The metal around the locking mechanism began to bend. The guard stared in disbelief as this small creature tore open a barrier that should have been impossible to break. The door gave way with a screech of tortured metal. Minho threw it aside and rushed through. Ambassador Hyun was in a different section when she heard the scream. She was with Sora, the other child. Her first thought was gratitude that Sora was safe. Her second thought was to find Deho. She began moving toward the source of the scream, but 3 Vraxian security guards moved to intercept her. "Please return to your quarters," one said. "There is an emergency situation. All delegates must get out of my way," Hyun said quietly. "We cannot allow—" She moved. One guard found himself on the floor, his arm twisted in a way that made him roar with pain. Another took a strike to the throat and staggered backward, gasping. The third tried to grab her, but she was already past him, pulling Sora along with her. She held the little girl's hand gently, but her other hand was ready to hurt anyone who tried to stop her. Minho reached the room first. He saw Daeho inside the containment field, the boy's face red from lack of oxygen, his eyes full of tears. The field was automated, controlled by the computer system. Minho ran to the control panel. He could not read the Vraxian symbols. Did not matter. He smashed the panel with his fist, tore out wires, ripped away circuits. Sparks flew. The machines made angry noises. The containment field flickered. Jiwon arrived seconds later. He saw what Minho was doing and joined in, both of them tearing apart the alien machinery with their bare hands. Neither of them felt the cuts from sharp metal or the burns from exposed power systems. Pain did not matter. Only the child mattered. The field collapsed. Daeho fell forward and Jiwon caught him. The boy gasped for air, his small body shaking. Jiwon held him close, checking for injuries with hands that were suddenly gentle again. "I'm sorry," Daeho sobbed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I just wanted to see—" "Shh," Jiwon said softly. "You're safe. You're safe now." Captain Theron arrived with a dozen Vraxian soldiers. They all stopped in the doorway, staring at the destruction. 2 of their strongest guards were down. A sealed door was torn from its frame. The control systems for a containment field were completely destroyed. And in the middle of it all, 3 humans stood breathing hard, their eyes still carrying that dangerous light. Theron looked at Jiwon, who was cradling the child. The human's uniform was torn. His hands were bleeding, but his eyes were very calm now, the emergency over. "What?" Theron said slowly. "Are you?" The security team surrounded the humans, weapons drawn but not yet aimed. Nobody seemed certain what to do. The humans had destroyed property and injured guards, but they had also just saved a child from suffocation. And they had done it with strength and speed that should not have been possible for creatures their size. Captain Theron stared at Commander Jiwon. The human's breathing was returning to normal, but blood dripped from his cut hands onto the floor. He still held young Daeho close, and the boy had stopped crying. His face pressed against Jiwon's chest. "I asked you a question," Theron said, his voice carrying a tone that had made entire planets surrender. "What are you?" Jiwon looked up slowly. His eyes were clear now, rational thought returning to his face. "We are exactly what we told you. We are human. We are from Earth, and we are here for diplomatic relations." "Diplomats do not break down doors," Crix wheezed from where he sat against the wall, one hand still pressed to his cracked chest plate. "Diplomats do not strike officers without provocation." The child screamed, Lieutenant Minho said simply. He was examining his bleeding hands with curiosity, as if surprised to find them injured. "We heard him scream. So you destroyed our property? Assaulted our guards?" Theron's tail lashed behind him, a sign of Vraxian anger. "Because of noise?" Ambassador Hyun stepped forward. She had arrived moments after the field collapsed, still holding Sora's hand. Her hair was disheveled and her diplomatic robes torn at the shoulder, evidence of her own fight through the ship. But her voice was steady and calm. "Not noise," she corrected. "A child in distress. There is a difference." "Explain this difference," demanded a new voice. An alien that looked like a collection of floating crystals drifted into the room. This was Counselor Vex, one of the senior members of the Galactic Coalition. His species communicated through light pulses that the translators converted to speech. "Explain why your people responded with violence to a simple accident." Hyun looked around the room at all the gathered aliens. She could see confusion on every face, every shape, every form of expression. They genuinely did not understand. To them, the human reaction seemed insane, disproportionate, dangerous. "How many of you have children?" she asked. Several aliens indicated yes through various gestures. Theron nodded once. Vex's crystals pulsed green for affirmative. "And if your child was in danger, what would you do?" "We would respond appropriately," Theron said. "We would follow proper protocols. Alert security. Use available resources. Maintain order while addressing the threat. Calculated response, Vex agreed. Measured. Appropriate to the level of danger. Hyun nodded slowly. That is where we differ. Humans do not calculate when their young scream. We do not measure. We do not follow protocols. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We cannot. Our biology does not allow it. Biology? Theron looked skeptical. You claim your violent response was involuntary? Yes. Ji-won spoke up, still holding Daiho. The boy had fallen asleep, exhausted by fear and lack of oxygen. When a human child screams in terror, every adult human who hears it experiences the same biological reaction. Our brains release chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, others, our heart rate increases, our muscles receive extra blood and oxygen, our perception of pain decreases, and our thinking brain, the part that handles logic and planning, gets overridden by something older. He gently shifted Daiho to a more comfortable position before continuing. Millions of years ago, our ancestors lived in a world full of predators. Large cats, pack hunters, creatures that would eat our young. Human babies are born helpless. They cannot run, cannot fight, cannot defend themselves for years. This is unusual in nature. Most animals can at least walk within hours of birth. Human children are vulnerable. Minho picked up the explanation. So the humans who survived, the ones who passed on their genes, were the ones who protected their young absolutely. Without hesitation, without calculation. When a child screamed, they ran toward the danger, not away from it. They fought threats they could not defeat. They ignored injuries. They did impossible things because the alternative was losing their child. And this behavior, Hyun concluded, became part of our genetics, built into our nervous system. It is not a choice. When we hear a child scream of fear, we do not decide to help. We are already moving, already fighting, already doing whatever is necessary. The room was silent for a long moment. The aliens processed this information, trying to understand it. Counselor Vex spoke first. This is inefficient. What if the threat is too large to fight? You would die meaninglessly. Yes, Hyun agreed. Sometimes humans die protecting their young. Often, in fact. But sometimes they succeed. And evolution favors those who try over those who abandon their offspring. Theron's expression was hard to read. You say this happens to all humans? Every one of you? Every healthy adult, Ji-won confirmed. Some more strongly than others. But yes, it is universal to our species. Parents feel it most intensely, but even humans without children respond. Even humans who have never met the child in danger will fight to save them. A small alien with gray fur, a Kelthari representative, spoke up timidly. What if the child is not actually in danger? What if it is just playing or upset about something minor? We can tell the difference, Minho said. Human children make many sounds, laughter, crying because they are hungry or tired, whining when they want something. We respond to those normally, with patience and care, but the fear scream is different. It has a specific pitch and intensity. When we hear that sound, our bodies know. This is not a want. This is a need. This is danger. Theron walked closer to Ji-won. The human tensed slightly but did not back away. The Vraxian leader looked down at the sleeping child, then at the blood on Ji-won's hands, then at the destroyed machinery around them. You injured yourself, Theron observed. Your hands are badly cut. You will need medical attention. Do you not feel pain? I feel it now, Ji-won admitted. During the emergency, no. Pain is information that tells us to stop doing something. When a child is in danger, we cannot afford to stop. So our body suppresses pain signals until the threat is over. Crick, still holding his cracked chest plate, made a sound of disbelief. You hit me hard enough to break Vraxian armor. I am 3 times your size. How is that possible? Hysterical strength, Hyun explained. Normally, human muscles can only use about 60% of their maximum power. This is a safety feature. Using full muscle power damages tissue, tendons, bones. But in extreme emergency, when a child is threatened, our brain removes that limit. We can access almost full muscle capacity. This is why parents can lift vehicles off their children or tear through barriers. She gestured to the bent doorframe. Lieutenant Minho probably damaged his hands, his arms, possibly cracked bones in the process of tearing open that door. He will hurt for weeks. But at the moment he heard the scream, none of that mattered. The child mattered. More aliens had gathered in the corridor, drawn by the commotion. They whispered among themselves, looking at the humans with new eyes. These small creatures suddenly seemed much more dangerous. A reptilian alien near the back spoke up. Is this why your species survived your homeworld? Earth is classified as a death world, yes? High gravity, extreme weather, many predators? Partially, Jiwan agreed. Earth taught us to be tough, but protecting our young taught us to be unstoppable when necessary. The difference between tough and unstoppable won us our planet. Theron's tail had stopped lashing. He seemed thoughtful now rather than angry. And if I had truly meant harm to these cubs? To Deho or Sora? What would you have done? The three humans looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Hyun answered, her voice very quiet but very clear. Everything necessary. 2 words. But the way she said them, the absolute certainty in her tone, made several aliens step backward. They suddenly understood that these humans, who had been so polite and diplomatic for the past 2 days, were perfectly capable of killing. Would kill, without hesitation if the children were threatened. Counselor Vex's crystals pulsed rapidly, his species equivalent of nervous laughter. I begin to understand why Earth has so many stories of parents doing impossible things. It is not metaphor, it is documentation. Yes, Minho said. We have thousands of years of records. Parents fighting off multiple attackers. Mothers lifting impossible weights. Fathers withstanding terrible injuries to get their children to safety. It seems supernatural, but it is just biology. Very old biology that we cannot control. Theron made a decision. He gestured to his guards to lower their weapons. Take your cub back to your quarters. Have your injuries treated. We will discuss this situation with the council. Jiwon nodded and started to leave. Still carrying Daiho. Hyun followed with Sora. Minho stayed for a moment, looking at the Vraxian captain. We did not want this, Minho said simply. We came here for peace, for cooperation. We still want that. But you needed to understand what we are, what we become when our young are threatened. Now you know. Now we know, Theron agreed. He watched the humans leave, then looked at the destruction around him. 2 guards injured, 1 door destroyed. A containment system in pieces, all done by 3 humans in less than 2 minutes. He had called them weak. He had called them soft. He had been very, very wrong. In their quarters, Jiwon finally allowed the medical team to treat. The emergency council session was called for the following morning. The main council chamber was much larger than the meeting rooms they had used before. It was a circular space with seating arranged in tiers, allowing representatives from over 40 different species to observe the proceedings. At the center was a platform where accused parties would stand to answer questions. The humans were the accused. Commander Jiwon stood at the center platform with Ambassador Hyun and Lieutenant Minho beside him. Their hands were bandaged. Jiwon's uniform had been cleaned and repaired, but evidence of the previous day's events was clear in the careful way he moved. His ribs were bruised, possibly cracked, from the exertion of tearing through alien machinery. Captain Theron presented the charges. His voice echoed through the chamber as he spoke. The humans are accused of destruction of property, assault on security personnel, and violation of restricted areas aboard this vessel. We have recordings of the incidents. We have injured guards as evidence. The humans do not deny these actions. He activated a holographic display. The assembled aliens watched footage from the ship's security cameras. They saw Jiwon strike Crix hard enough to crack his armor. They saw Minho tear open a sealed door with his bare hands. They saw Hyun disable 3 trained Vraxian guards in seconds. The violence was undeniable. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many aliens had not seen the recordings yet. They were shocked by the speed and force of the human response. A few looked frightened. Others looked angry. When the recording ended, Counselor Vex spoke. His crystal form floated forward, pulsing with white light. Do the humans wish to present a defense? We do, Hyun said calmly. She stepped forward on the platform. But first, I would like to establish context. May I show our own recording? Theron looked surprised. The humans have a recording? We do, Hyun confirmed. All members of our delegation wear personal recording devices. This is standard protocol for first contact situations. The recordings are for our safety and for accurate documentation. After a brief consultation, Vex granted permission. Hyun activated her own display. The assembled aliens saw what the humans had seen. The corridor from Daeho's perspective as he wandered into the restricted area. His innocent curiosity about the machines. His accidental activation of the containment field. Then came the sound. Daeho's scream of pure terror as the air began to thin. Every alien in the chamber with ears or equivalent sensory organs flinched at the sound. It was awful, piercing, the sound of a young creature facing death. The recording switched to Jiwon's perspective. The audio feed showed the scream being broadcast through his translator. The video showed his instant physical reaction, the way his entire posture changed in a fraction of a second, and then his desperate run through the ship, seeing nothing but obstacles between him and the child who needed help. When the recording ended, the chamber was very quiet. A Keltari counselor spoke up, her gray fur bristling with emotion. "That sound," she said softly, "that cry of terror. I have young of my own. If I heard my offspring make such a sound, I would—" She trailed off, unable to finish. "What would you do?" Hyun asked gently. "I would find them. Protect them." The Kelthari's ears flattened against her head. "But I would alert others. I would call for help. I would not—" She gestured at the recording of Jiwon's violence. "I would not do that. Could you stop yourself?" Hyun asked. "If you heard your child screaming that way, could you pause to alert others? Could you wait for help to arrive? Could you follow proper procedures?" The Kelthari thought about this. No, I suppose I would run to them immediately." "But would you fight?" Minyo asked. "Would you attack anyone who stood between you and your child?" "I do not know. My people are not warriors. Neither are most humans," Minho replied. "I am a soldier, yes. Commander Jiwon has military training, but Ambassador Hyun is a diplomat with no combat background. Yet yesterday she disabled 3 trained guards. She did not choose to do this. Her body simply reacted to the threat against a human child." Theron spoke up, his voice carrying skepticism. "You claim this was involuntary, that you could not control your actions. This is a convenient defense." "It is not a defense," Jiwon said firmly. "It is an explanation. We take full responsibility for our actions. We injured your guards, and we are sorry they were hurt. We destroyed your property, and we will pay for repairs. But we are not sorry we saved the child. We cannot be sorry for that, and we would do it again." "Even knowing the consequences?" Vex asked. "Even knowing it might end your diplomatic mission? Even knowing it could create conflict between our species?" "Yes," all 3 humans said together. Their unified response seemed to carry weight with some of the aliens. A large insect-like being clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. "The humans speak with one voice on this matter. This suggests cultural values, not individual choice." "Correct," Young confirmed. She pulled up another display, this one showing text and images from Earth. "These are stories from human history, documented cases of our protective response. Here, a mother who fought off a large predator that attacked her children. Here, a father who carried 2 children through dangerous terrain for 3 days without stopping. Here, a grandmother who pulled her grandchild from a frozen lake despite being too weak to swim normally." She scrolled through dozens more examples. "These are not myths. These are recorded facts. Medical professionals have documented the phenomenon. We call it hysterical strength or emergency strength. Our bodies have the capability to exceed normal limits when certain triggers activate." A floating jellyfish-like alien pulsed with curious colors. "And the trigger is always offspring?" "Not only offspring," Minho explained. "Any human child. We form bonds with the young of our species, even if they are not our biological children. This is because humans evolved as social groups. A village would share the responsibility of protecting all children. This meant more children survived. Groups that protected their young collectively did better than groups where only parents cared for their own." Hyun continued the explanation. "This is why all 3 of us responded. Daeho is not our biological child. But he is human. He is young. He is under our protection." When he screamed, our bodies did not check for genetic relationship. They only registered human child in danger. Must help, must protect, must fight any threat, even overwhelming threats. Asked a species that looked like living stone. "Even if you would surely die?" "Yes," Jiwon said quietly. "Humans have a saying, a parent would move mountains for their child. It sounds like poetry, but it is truth. We will attempt the impossible. We will fight unwinnable battles. We will sacrifice ourselves without hesitation, not because we are brave, but because we cannot do otherwise." Theron had been listening to all of this with a thoughtful expression. Now he spoke, his tone less aggressive than before. "You say you cannot control this response. But you are clearly in control now. The danger has passed, yet you are calm. Rational. How do you explain this? The trigger is specific, Hyun explained. A child's fear scream activates our emergency response. Once the child is safe, the response ends. The chemicals in our blood break down. Our thinking brain regains control. It takes several minutes, sometimes longer, depending on the intensity of the situation. But yes, it is temporary. We are not permanently aggressive. But, Minho added seriously, if another child screamed right now, it would happen again. Instantly. We would have no more control than we did yesterday. This is important for the Council to understand. We are not threatening you. We are warning you. Keep human children safe and we are peaceful. Threaten them, and we become something else. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some aliens argued that such unpredictable beings were too dangerous for the coalition. Others pointed out that the humans had only responded to genuine danger. The debate continued for nearly an hour. Finally, Councillor Vex called for order. I propose we examine Earth's own history. Do humans harm each other's young? If this protective instinct is so strong, surely your species treats all children well. Hyun's expression became sad. I wish I could say yes, but no. Humans do sometimes harm children, even their own. We have crime. We have cruelty. We have war that kills the innocent. Our protective instinct is strong, but we are not perfect beings. Then your instinct can be overcome, Theron said. You can choose to ignore it. No, Jiwon corrected. We can choose to harm children, but never while they are screaming in terror in front of us. The crimes against human children happen in secret, in darkness, by people who have suppressed their empathy. And when these crimes are discovered, other humans respond with rage. We imprison those who hurt children for longer than murderers of adults. We consider harm to children the worst crime our species can commit. He paused, then added, there is a reason for this. The humans who would harm a screaming child who could ignore that sound did not survive evolutionary pressure. That trait died out. The humans who remain, all of us, all 8 billion people on Earth, we all carry the protection instinct. It is part of being human. A small alien with multiple eyes spoke up from the upper tiers. But what if someone does not like children? What if they find them annoying? Does not matter, Minho said. You can dislee. The remaining 3 days of the summit passed very differently than the first two. Aliens who had ignored the humans now watched them carefully. Some kept their distance, uncertain how to interact with a species that could transform from diplomat to warrior in seconds. Others approached with genuine curiosity, asking questions about Earth and human biology. The Vraxians, particularly, changed their behavior. Captain Theron no longer made casual insults. He did not test human tolerance with physical intimidation. His guards gave the human delegation respectful space. Crix, whose chest plate still bore the crack from G1's punch, actually nodded politely when they passed in the corridors. On the 4th day, the summit held sessions about trade agreements. Ambassador Hyun presented Earth's proposal for resource exchange. The other delegates actually listened this time. They asked thoughtful questions. They discussed terms with genuine interest rather than dismissive contempt. During a break, a Kelthari representative approached Ji-won. Her gray fur was neatly groomed, and she carried a small device. Commander Ji-won, may I speak with you privately? Of course, Counselor Myra. Ji-won followed her to a quiet corner of the observation deck. Myra's ears twitched nervously. I wanted to apologize. When I first saw you, I thought your people were weak. Small bodies, soft skin, no natural weapons. I did not understand. Many thought the same, Ji-won said without resentment. We are small compared to most species here. It is a natural assumption. But you are not weak. Myra touched the device she carried and it projected images. I researched your planet after the incident. Earth is classified as a high-gravity world with extreme environmental conditions. You survive in heat that would kill my people and cold that would freeze Vraxian blood. You have predators that hunt in packs and others that ambush from hiding. Yet humans not only survived, you became the dominant species. We cooperated, Ji-won said simply. Individually, humans are not particularly strong or fast. But we work together. We share knowledge. We protect each other, especially our young. That cooperation made us successful. Myra's device showed more images, these of human children. Your young are helpless for an unusually long time. Most species can walk within days of birth. Human infants cannot even lift their heads. Why? Large brains, Ji-won explained. Human intelligence requires big brains, which require big heads. But human females have narrow hips because we walk upright. The compromise is that human babies are born early, before their heads grow too large. Then they continue developing outside the womb. This means years of vulnerability, but it gave us intelligence and protection instinct, Myra said thoughtfully, because such vulnerable young would not survive without absolute dedication from adults. She looked at Jiwon with new respect. Your species traded individual strength for intelligence and cooperation. It was a good trade. It has worked so far, Jiwon agreed. Later that day, young Daeho asked if he could apologize to Captain Theron. Hyun accompanied him to the Vraxian delegation's quarters. Theron received them in a formal meeting room, his officers standing behind him. Daeho looked very small in front of the massive aliens, but he stood straight and spoke clearly. Captain Theron, I am sorry I went into the restricted area. I did not mean to cause problems. I was just curious about your ship and I did not pay attention to the signs. He held out a piece of paper. I made this for you. Theron took the paper carefully, his large claws surprisingly gentle. It was a drawing done with colored pencils. It showed the Vraxian flagship among the stars with planets and nebulae in the background. In the corner, in careful handwriting, it said, "Thank you for hosting us." From Daeho. The massive Vraxian stared at the drawing for a long moment. His golden eyes flickered with some emotion that was hard to identify. When he spoke, his voice was much softer than usual. You are forgiven, young one. You meant no harm. And... He paused, seeming to choose words carefully. I am sorry that my ship's systems put you in danger. We will make sure our safety protocols are better for smaller visitors. Daeho smiled. Your ship is very beautiful. Can I draw more pictures of it? Yes, Theron said. He looked at Hyun. He is brave to come here. Many adults would be frightened of Vraxians. Human children are resilient, Hyun said. They recover from trauma quickly if they feel safe afterward. Daeho knows he is protected. That knowledge lets him move past his fear. After they left, Crick spoke quietly to his captain. The cub shows no anger toward us. No resentment. How? Because he knows his people will fight for him, Theron said, still holding the drawing. He does not need to fear because his adults fear for him. They carry the weight so he can remain innocent. He carefully placed the drawing on his desk. I begin to understand why humans consider their young so precious. They are not just offspring. They are the future, protected absolutely so they can grow without bearing the burdens of danger. On the fifth and final day, the summit held its closing ceremony. Representatives from each species spoke about what they had learned and what they hoped for future cooperation. When it was Ambassador Hyun's turn, she stood before the assembly with quiet dignity. We came here as the newest members of your coalition, she began. We knew we would be tested. We knew we would be judged. We expected to prove ourselves through knowledge, through technology, through diplomatic skill. She paused. We did not expect to prove ourselves through biology. A few aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. The tension that had dominated the early days had eased considerably. But perhaps, Hyun continued, it was necessary. You needed to understand what humans are, not just what we can build or what we can trade, but what we will do, what we must do when certain lines are crossed. Her voice became firmer. We are peaceful. We seek friendship with all species. We hope for cooperation and mutual benefit. But we are also protective. If you harm a human child, you will meet something ancient and unstoppable. This is not a threat. It is a warning born from respect. We tell you this so it never needs to be tested again. She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes and optical sensors and awareness fields. We ask only one thing, keep human children safe. In return, you will find no more loyal allies. We will share our knowledge. We will honor our agreements. We will stand with you in times of trouble. The same instinct that makes us fight for our young makes us fight for our friends. You will never have to wonder if humans will keep their word. You will never have to question if we will help when help is needed. We protect what we consider ours, and if you accept us, you become ours to protect. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then surprisingly, Captain Theron stood. His massive form dominated the space. I propose formal acceptance of humanity into the coalition. They have shown us strength hidden beneath diplomacy. They have shown us dedication that cannot be broken. They have shown us what it means to protect the future. He gestured at the bandages still visible on Jiwon's hands. They have shown us they will bleed for what matters. The vote was called. Species after species indicated acceptance. Even those who had been most skeptical agreed. Humanity was admitted to the Galactic Coalition with full membership status. After the ceremony, as the delegates prepared to return to their respective worlds, a surprising number approached the humans with proposals. The Keltharians wanted to establish an embassy on Earth. 3 different species requested cultural exchange programs. 2 military powers asked about potential defense treaties. Counselor Vex floated over to where Jiwan stood with his delegation. "Your species has changed the coalition," the crystal being said, his lights pulsing with warm colors. "We have been together for 200 years. We have established protocols. We have created order. But we had forgotten something important." "What is that?" Jiwan asked. "We forgot that civilization is built to protect the vulnerable. We became so focused on power and territory and resources that we forgot why any of it matters. You reminded us. A society that cannot protect its children has failed at the most basic level. You showed us this with your actions," Hyun smiled. "We only did what any parent would do. But you did it instantly without calculating cost or consequence. That purity of purpose is rare." Vex's crystals shifted colors, cycling through the spectrum. "I have offspring. Many of us do. But we have bureaucratized parenthood. We have agencies and procedures. We have rules about appropriate response. Perhaps we have lost something in all that civilization. Or perhaps," Minho suggested, "different species have different needs. Your offspring might not require the same protection intensity that human children need. There is no single right way to be a parent or a society. But understanding each other's ways helps us coexist." "Wise words," Vex agreed. "I look forward to working with your people. Lieutenant Minho, with all of you." As the Vraxian flagship prepared to transport the various delegations back to their home territories, the humans gathered their belongings. Daiho and Sora were excited to return to Earth and tell their families about the adventure. They had no lasting trauma from the incident, just memories of exciting aliens and a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. Captain Theron personally came to see the humans off. He stood before them, towering and powerful, but his posture was respectful now.